The readings will now be given by Mishaela from Canada.
The Bible, 1 John. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. And everyone that loveth is born of God, and knoweth God. No man hath seen God at any time. If we love one another, God dwelleth in us, and his love is perfected in us. If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother, whom he can see, how can he love God, whom he hath not seen? 1 Samuel. And David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him. Then Saul arose and went down to the wilderness of Ziph, having 3,000 chosen men of Israel with him, to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul pitched in the hill of Hachilah, which is before Jeshimon by the way. But David abode in the wilderness, and he saw that Saul came after him into the wilderness. And David arose and came to the place where Saul had pitched. So David and Abishai came to the people by night, and behold, Saul lay sleeping within the trench, and his spear stuck in the ground at his bolster. But Abner and the people lay round about him. Then said Abishai to David, God hath delivered thine enemy into thine hand this day. Now, therefore, let me smite him, I pray thee, with the spear even to the earth at once, and I will not smite him the second time. And David said to Abishai, Destroy him not. For who can stretch forth his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? So David took the spear and the cruse of water from Saul's bolster, and they gat them away, and no man saw it. Then David went over to the other side and stood on the top of an hill afar off, a great space being between them. And David cried to the people, The Lord render to every man his righteousness and his faithfulness. For the Lord delivered thee into my hand today, but I would not stretch forth my hand against the Lord's anointed. Then Saul said to David, Blessed be thou, my son David. Thou shalt both do great things, and also shalt still prevail. So David went on his way, and Saul returned to his place. Matthew. Jesus began to preach and to say, Ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. For if ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? Luke. And the chief priests and scribes sought how they might kill him. And while he yet spake, behold, a multitude, and he that was called Judas, one of the 12, went before them and drew near unto Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said unto him, Judas, betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss? When they which were about him saw what would follow, they said unto him, Lord, shall we smite with a sword? And one of them smote the servant of the high priest, and cut off his right ear. And Jesus answered and said, Suffer ye thus far. And he touched his ear and healed him. 2 Thessalonians. And the Lord direct your hearts into the love of God and into the patient waiting for Christ. But ye, brethren, be not weary in well-doing. And if any man obey not our word by the epistle, note that man, and have no company with him, that he may be ashamed. Yet count him not as an enemy, but admonish him as a brother. Romans. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. I will read now correlative passages from prose works by Mary Baker Eddy. God is universal, confined to no spot, defined by no dogma, appropriated by no sect. Not more to one than to all is God demonstrable as divine life, truth, and love. And his people are they that reflect him, that reflect love. Hate no one, for hatred is a plague spot that spreads its virus and kills at last. If you have been badly wronged, forgive and forget. God will recompense this wrong and punish more severely than you could him who has striven to injure you. Never return evil for evil. And above all, do not fancy that you have been wronged when you have not been. He that touches the hem of Christ's robe and masters his mortal beliefs, animality, and hate, rejoices in the proof of healing, in a sweet and certain sense that God is love. Alas, for those who break with faith, with divine science, and fail to strangle the serpent of sin as well as of sickness. They are dwellers still in the deep darkness of belief. They are in the searching sea of error, not struggling to lift their heads above the drowning wave. What must the end be? They must eventually expiate their sin through suffering. The sin which one has made his bosom companion comes back to him at last with accelerated force. For the devil knoweth his time is short. Here the scriptures declare that evil is temporal, not eternal. The dragon is at last stung to death by his own malice. But how many periods of torture it may take to remove all sin must depend upon sin's obduracy. Who is thine enemy that thou shouldst love him? Is it a creature or a thing outside thine own creation? Can you see an enemy except you first formulate this enemy and then look upon the object of your own conception? What is it that harms you? Can height or depth or any other creature separate you from the love that is omnipresent good, that blesses infinitely one and all? Simply count your enemy to be that which defiles, defaces, and dethrones the Christ image that you should reflect. Whatever purifies, sanctifies, and consecrates human life is not an enemy, however much we suffer in the process. Whatever envy, hatred, revenge, the most remorseless motives that govern mortal mind, whatever these try to do, shall work together for good to them that love God. Why? Because he has called his own, armed them, equipped them, and furnished them defenses impregnable. Their God will not let them be lost, and if they fall, they shall rise again, stronger than before the stumble. The good cannot lose their God, their help in times of trouble. We must love our enemies in all the manifestations wherein and whereby we love our friends. Must even try not to expose their faults, but to do them good whenever opportunity occurs. To mete out human justice to those who persecute and despitefully use one is not leaving the retribution to God and returning blessing for cursing. If special opportunity for doing good to one's enemies occur not, one can include them in his general effort to benefit the race. Like a legislative bill that governs millions of mortals whom the legislator know not, the universal law of God has no knowledge of evil and enters unconsciously the human heart and governs it. Mortals have only to submit to the law of God, come into sympathy with it, and to let His will be done. This unbroken motion of the law of divine love gives to the weary and heavy laden rest. Rest assured that the good you do unto others, you do to yourselves as well. And the wrong you may commit will rebound upon you. The entire purpose of true education is to make one not only know the truth, but live it. To make one enjoy doing right, make one not work in the sunshine and run away in the storm, but work midst clouds of wrong, injustice, envy, hate, and wait on God, the strong deliverer who will reward righteousness and punish iniquity. For victory over a single sin, we give thanks and magnify the Lord of hosts. What shall we say of the mighty conquest over all sin? A louder song, sweeter than ever before, reached high heaven, now rises clearer and nearer to the great heart of Christ. For the accuser is not there. And love sends forth her primal and everlasting strain. Self-abnegation, by which we lay down all for truth or Christ in our warfare against error, is a rule in Christian Science. This rule clearly interprets God as divine principle, as life represented by the Father, as truth represented by the Son, as love represented by the Mother. Love is the fulfilling of the law. It is grace, mercy, and justice.